Today's topic of discussion is Stoicism. So right now in today's time, we've got a lot of weak men. We've got guys who are complaining, saying that they're going through pain, they're going through suffering, and they ain't got a clue about any of that. So in this video, we're going to be discussing some key points in terms of why Stoicism is so important and how it's needed to navigate all relationships. So first point is grounded. Now I'm going to play this 30-second clip for you guys of a Rizz expert approaching a woman and trying to pretend like he's stoic. So I'll play it now for you guys.
I figured this chair wasn't taken, so I'm gonna take it myself.
Sorry, what's that?
I'm beautiful enough for you to take out your earphones. Where are you from?
Syria.
You know, I always promised myself I would marry a Bulgarian woman.
So you say to every nationality.
You got me? Only the beautiful girls.
Thank you.
You have a beautiful smile as well. I'm Diego. Nice to meet you. This is our first day. When are we going on the second day? You on Instagram or anything?
Instagram, you do.
Alright. Can I have my Instagram on your phone?
Yeah, sure.
So I'll text you later, yeah? It was lovely to meet you anyway. Have an amazing day.
You too.
Okay, so you guys are back now. You've had a watch of it. Now in that video, we've got these young kids saying that this guy here is a Rizz expert, he's stoic, and he is so confident. Now, if you guys analyze the behavior of that interaction between him and that woman, you see how there were certain highs and lows in that interaction. And he kept on mentioning that she's beautiful. Now, he mentioned, right, how he only approaches beautiful girls and she's really beautiful. And he was asking for her Instagram, and then she gave it afterwards. Now for guys who are watching, they're thinking, oh my god, he got his Instagram, got her Instagram. You know, that's not quite how it played out. Now the issue is, right, when modern day people equate that to Stoicism. You know, Stoicism is literally going through pain, going through suffering, going through hardships, and overcoming those hardships without showing emotions and feelings and having a heart attack and just getting overwhelmed. Now, when it comes to relationships in real life, being grounded is so important. So it needs to be a steady, straight line. Now, you're going to have certain time periods where you're going to be angry, you're going to be happy, you're going to be sad, you're going to be experiencing a range of different emotions. But as a man, you need to try your best to stay grounded and stay stoic. Now, it's really important. Now, with that video, the guy, I'm not even trying to bash him, but the reason why these type of people are negative influences in life, in society, is because people think that is what masculinity is. They try and equate that to Stoicism. Now the correct way, the way he should have gone about it, if he was trying to get a relationship with her, I think she was in her late 20s, early 30s, that's what she looked like. And then she saw this young kid, probably in his early 20s or mid 20s, approaching her, and then he's calling her beautiful, and then she's just thinking to herself, I've heard that like a million times before. You know, there's no direction, there's no leadership, there's no clear intention. Now, as I've mentioned to you guys previously, when it comes to speaking to the opposite gender, and let's say you want a relationship with the woman, it's always best to state your intentions from the get-go. Now, you tell her, look, I'd like to speak to you for marriage purposes. And try your best to arrange a meeting with her and her family. But if she doesn't want to do that, she's not trying to do things the right way, or if she says, oh no, I'm not interested, then you just move on. You speak to somebody else. You know what the saying is, there's plenty of fish in the sea. Now, so don't get too caught up on one person. So next point is EQ. Now, this one here is something which nobody really talks about. So EQ is emotional intelligence. This is something which everybody has control over. Because there's certain people in TikTok, YouTube, and all these other social media platforms, they're all saying, you need to be a certain skin complexion, you need to have a certain eye color, you need to have X amount of money, you need to be handsome, and all these other things. Now, let's say you haven't got any of those things. You do have control over your EQ. Now, some of you guys are thinking, how can I develop that? Now, emotional intelligence is something which is really, really important. It's something which will help you navigate in all areas of life when it comes to human interaction. So you've got family, you've got your friends, you've got your social networks, you've got your work colleagues, you've got your day-to-day interactions with people. Now, assessing other people's body language, facial expressions, and so on. It can help you navigate all of those things. Now, with that guy in the video, when the woman at the end, when he gave her his Instagram, she gave him like a bit of a look, which was just like, yeah, all right. It's not like I haven't been in this situation before, where a guy's just cold approached me, and he's just trying to get in my pants. So when it comes to EQ is something which God has given. I'm losing my train of thought here. So EQ is something which women have been gifted with naturally. So God has gifted them with EQ over men. But guys can develop their EQ and actually get it better than women in general. But it's something that they are going to need to work on. And then when you master emotional intelligence, being able to assess your environments, assess how a woman's behaving, the way she's conducting herself, tone of language, and not just women in general, but everyone, so men and women. You're going to excel in life. You're going to be able to influence people in a positive way. So you don't want to be that type of guy who's labelled as a Rizz expert. Because all you're trying to do is just trying to get in the pants of a woman. Now, do you think these women are stupid? Some of them are just going to play dumb and play along. Yeah. But eventually, that's going to fade. They're going to wake up to the reality. And they're going to realize, this guy here is just full of BS. He's not serious. Because if he was serious, he'd be very direct in how he's approaching her. He'd be direct with his intentions. So he'd be saying, we're going to here, to X location. Or, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this in a woman. That's what women respect. But how many women today respect men? Little to none. Reason being is because a lot of these guys aren't respectable. If these guys here, all they're trying to do is just fornicate and sleep around. A woman ain't going to respect that. So, next point is no contact. Now, the reason why I link this to no contact is because being stoic during no contact, that's what's going to help you get through that. So there's going to be certain slip-ups that you guys are going to make. Let's say you're having a back and forth with a woman and you have a disagreement. And then let's say you just stop talking. Having a stoic attitude and being stoic during no contact, that's what's going to help you overcome those time periods. So the woman's going to see that this guy here, he's reliable, he's grounded, he's emotionally mature, he's not reckless, he's not emotional, he's not aggressive, unnecessarily aggressive, and cannot control his emotions. So the woman sees that, and she sees that this guy here, he's staying calm, collective, and he's got his priorities right. So eventually the woman, she'll reach out, whether it's through her friends, family, or herself directly. And it may be like in a little sneaky way. She may be like, oh yeah, hello, how are you? Or, I like that video that you uploaded, or whatever the case is. Some sort of conversation starter. And then they'll pretend like nothing ever happened. Now, you guys here, if a woman does, let's say, contact you, don't just shut her down and be like, oh yeah, I knew you'd come crawling back, or, something like that. You don't want to do none of that. You just want to speak to the woman in a direct way and just tell her no hard feelings. But if, for example, she done something disrespectful, and let's say she crossed certain boundaries, then she knows within herself that she needs to fix that and apologize for that. So when a person does apologize for that, then you can both move forward. Then it's just water under the bridge. But how many men in society are going to actually do no contact and stick to it? And actually stick to their word to say that, okay, I'm not going to be in a relationship with you until this is resolved. Because certain people, they just brush it under the carpet. They just think, oh, okay, just let it slide. I don't need to address it. That's what creates further issues in the long term. So, final point is God. Now, there's a bunch of guys on the internet who claim to be stoic and they're behaving masculine. How many of them have actually got good morals and good ethics? How many of them have got integrity? You won't find that many of them. That's why the deen emphasizes both things. So you need to have deen and you need to have character. Character weighs heavy on the scales on the day of judgment. The character right there, that really, really has a lot of weighting. Because it doesn't just show that, you're actually doing a good deed. You're doing it because you have good intentions. You're doing it because you're doing it to please God. But how many guys now do you see where they're trying to please a woman or trying to please other people in society, and they're just trying to fit in? They'll literally sell their deen for money. That's the type of people we have in today's time. Selling their morals and ethics, their integrity for the paycheck. That right there ain't somebody with a solid character. It also links back to saying something and sticking to it. So if you guys are gonna, let's say, work on a business and you're saying that I'm gonna continue working on it, then you guys need to stick to that. Don't just quit and say, things are becoming difficult now, things are becoming tough, they're becoming hard, I'm going through a bit of pain, a bit of suffering, and then just quit. That's not what Stoicism is. That's not what God wants you to do. He wants you to go through those trials and tribulations and become a better version of yourself. So, just to wrap up, grounded. Now, I've shown you guys that video of that beta male Rizz expert going around thinking that he's doing something. Now, these people here, they don't have no healthy relationships. Reason being is because they're going about things in the wrong way. Now, when it comes to being grounded in your day-to-day activities and grounded during time periods when things are going difficult, that right there shows your real character. Because everyone can go through easy time periods when things are going well, things are going good. But how many people can keep a straight face when things are going badly? When they're going through tough times, when they ain't got no money, when their partner has left them, when their family has turned against them. That's why there's certain stories within Holy Scriptures. So you got, for example, the Bible, Quran, mentions certain prophets. How all these prophets went through adversities, trials and tribulations. But they stayed strong in who they were. They stayed strong in their character. They stayed grounded. And this one after that was EQ. EQ is emotional intelligence. Being able to assess situations, assess body language, tone of voice, facial expressions. Being able to assess that and being able to use the correct words, being able to stay grounded and to assess when somebody is showing the correct attitude. Because some people are going to come along, they'll say one thing, but their body language is showing something else. So you guys don't want to get caught up in that. Is when you see, for example, somebody saying, you look really good today. But then you see him smirking, or you see him looking down and saying, making a strange face. That's part of just emotional intelligence. But some people, they'll think that, this guy here, they just think of it as it doesn't really mean anything. But it does. if that makes sense, what I just said there. So this is what it is. Women can assess that. They can see your emotional intelligence. How you conduct yourself. Whether you're somebody who's erratic, you're overly aggressive, or if you're somebody who takes things too personally. Because some people who are going around in today's time, they're literally like emotional feminine boys. Somebody says, how's your family? Somebody may just flip over that and be like, what do you mean, how's my family? What's it got to do with you? And the person's just asking a genuine question. Or if somebody asks you, how are you? And then somebody says, no, I'm doing alright. Is that person going to talk to them again? Now the answer is going to be no. Going to be like, alright, flipping out. This guy here, he's got an attitude. You don't want to be that type of person. The next one after was no contact. So during no contact, when you stop communicating with a woman, it could be several days, several weeks, several months. It's really important to stay grounded and to stay stoic. Or if you're going through adversities, trials and tribulations, staying firm in your beliefs and to have the willpower to know that you will overcome that. So you don't want to be that type of guy who just quits and says, I can't do this anymore. And then you've got friends and family around you and you're complaining to them. Now, you don't want to be that type of guy, because everybody knows individuals like that. And nobody wants to be around them type of people. And then the final point was God. God gives guidance. He gives strength. Everything that you're looking for. God is going to provide you with that. But it's about having the belief in His provision and His guidance. Now that goes back to belief. So belief, having faith. Because without faith and belief in God, chances are you're going to end up crumbling. So I hope that makes sense, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.